In the autumn of 1918, the German government sent a message to Washington that carried a death threat, not across a battlefield, through diplomatic channels. The message was blunt. Any American soldier found carrying a Winchester shotgun or even a single round of shotgun ammunition would be executed as a war criminal. The weapon Germany wanted banned was not a machine gun, not a flamethrower, not poison gas. It was a pump-action shotgun built in New Haven, Connecticut, designed by a craftsman from Utah who had already transformed American firearms once and would do it again. The Winchester Model 1897, and Germany's attempt to have it outlawed and to threaten American lives over it would produce one of the most complete diplomatic defeats of the entire war. This is the story of a gun Germany feared more than it admitted, a legal argument that collapsed under the weight of its own hypocrisy, and an American government that looked an execution threat in the eye and said, "We will keep issuing them." The Western Front in 1917 was a landscape of mud, wire, and industrialized killing on a scale the world had never seen. Artillery had turned entire regions of France and Belgium into cratered wastelands. Machine guns made open ground advances suicidal. And when the lines stopped moving and men burrowed into the earth, a new kind of fighting emerged, close, desperate, and often decided in the dark, in a space no wider than a hallway. American forces, now flooding into France under General John Pershing as part of the American Expeditionary Force, faced a tactical reality that the bolt-action rifle did not address. The Springfield 1903 was a precision instrument, 5 rounds, a full bolt cycle between each shot, designed for engagements measured in hundreds of yards. In a trench raid, the enemy might be 10 feet away. The man who could put the most lead downrange in the shortest span of time survived. The Springfield was not that weapon. The Army's Ordnance Department had an answer already sitting in American hands, one with a longer military history than most people realized. The Winchester Model 1897 had been in production for 2 full decades by the time America entered the war. John Moses Browning had designed it as an evolution of his earlier Winchester 1893, reworking the action to handle the smokeless powder cartridges that had replaced black powder loads in the 1890s. The result was a pump-action shotgun built around a design Browning had already proven, and it had found civilian buyers from duck hunters to lawmen across the country. The Army had used it before. At the turn of the century, American forces in the Philippines deployed riot model versions of the 1897 in close quarters fighting through dense jungle terrain. The gun functioned under conditions that punished lesser designs. It came back dirty, and it kept working. The military noted that. And when the Western Front demanded a close combat weapon nearly 2 decades later, the Ordnance Department returned to the platform it knew. The civilian model was reworked for war. The barrel was cut to 20 inches, compact enough to swing in a confined trench without catching on the walls. A perforated steel heat shield was fitted around the barrel, protecting the shooter's hands during sustained fire. A bayonet lug was added, accepting the standard Model 1917 bayonet, because when the shells ran out, a soldier still needed options. The tubular magazine held 5 rounds with a 6th in the chamber, all in 12 gauge, loaded with double-aught buckshot. One early problem emerged quickly. The standard paper shot shells deteriorated in the damp, soaking conditions of the Western Front. The moisture compressed them until they would not feed under the magazine's spring tension. The Army solved it cleanly. Solid brass shells, impervious to the mud and rain of the trenches, replaced the paper loads. The gun kept cycling. But the feature that set the 1897 apart from every other combat weapon on the line was a function of what the gun lacked rather than what it had. Most shotguns include a trigger disconnector, a mechanism requiring the shooter to fully release the trigger between shots before the next round will fire. The Winchester 1897 had no such device. A trained soldier could hold the trigger depressed, work the pump, and the gun fired the instant each shell chambered. All 6 rounds, empty, in the time it took a man to register what was coming at him. By June of 1918, the Ordnance Department had issued enough Model 1897s to assign 50 to each division, distributed primarily to the scout platoons of each regiment. A canvas sling pouch holding 32 shells went with each gun, enough firepower to clear multiple positions before a reload was needed. Soldiers gave the weapon names: the trench sweeper, the trench broom. In the close, confined spaces where men killed each other on the Western Front, those names were accurate. By September of 1918, American forces had been in direct combat on the Western Front for less than 5 months. They had fought at Cantigny, at Belleau Wood, and were now pressing into the Meuse-Argonne, the largest military operation in American history to that point. German lines were under the most sustained pressure of the war, and German soldiers were encountering the Winchester 1897 at ranges where its capabilities could not be disputed. The response from Berlin was not tactical, it was legal. On the 19th of September, 1918, Friedrich Oderlin, the Swiss Chargé d'Affaires in Washington, Switzerland, acting as the diplomatic intermediary representing German interests. Since the two nations had severed direct relations upon the American declaration of war, presented Secretary of State Robert Lansing with a cablegram from the German government. The message cited Article 23, Section E, of the 1907 Hague Convention respecting the laws and customs of war on land. That provision prohibited arms, projectiles, or materials calculated to cause unnecessary suffering. Germany's argument was that buckshot, multiple pellets spreading on impact, shattering bone and tissue across a wide wound channel, inflicted wounds qualitatively worse than those caused by rifle rounds or artillery fragments, and therefore violated the law of war. Then came the threat. The cablegram stated that every American prisoner of war found in possession of such guns or ammunition belonging thereto forfeited his life. A reply was demanded by cable before the 1st of October. This was not a battlefield warning. It was a written diplomatic communication transmitted through official channels threatening to execute American prisoners of war based on the weapon found in their possession. The German government had put it in writing and given Washington 12 days to respond. Washington's answer unfolded on 2 tracks, legal and diplomatic, and both reached the same conclusion before Germany's deadline. Brigadier General Samuel T. Ansel, the acting Judge Advocate General of the United States Army, drafted his memorandum on the 26th of September. His task was to evaluate Germany's legal claim on its merits. His conclusion required no hedging. The German protest was, in Ansel's own words, without legal merit. His reasoning was methodical. Article 23, Section E of the Hague Convention prohibited weapons calculated to cause unnecessary suffering. Ansel's memorandum held that argument up against the conditions of the Western Front and examined what Germany was itself deploying. Shrapnel shells scattering hundreds of metal fragments on detonation, hand grenades throwing steel shards in all directions, machine guns firing hundreds of rounds per minute into massed troops. The argument that buckshot from a 12-gauge shotgun caused suffering categorically distinct from these accepted instruments of warfare did not survive the comparison. Acting Secretary of War Benedict Crowell endorsed the Ansel Memorandum and forwarded it to the State Department the same day it was completed. Secretary of State Lansing prepared the formal American reply. It addressed Germany's legal position and its threat in that order. On the legal question, the Hague provision Germany cited did not apply to the shotgun. The weapon had a long-established history in warfare. Its effects, measured against the full range of weapons both sides were freely deploying, gave Germany no standing to single it out as a special case. The protest was, in Lansing's words, not a subject of legitimate or reasonable protest. On the threat, the United States government had noted Germany's stated intention to execute American prisoners found with shotguns or shotgun ammunition. Because the weapon was lawful, its use would not be abandoned. And if Germany were to carry out its threat in a single instance, it would be the right and duty of the United States government to make such reprisals as would best protect the American forces. That notice was being formally given. The message Germany received was precise: harm one American soldier for carrying this gun, and the consequences follow immediately. Germany never replied. No American soldier is known to have been executed under the policy Germany put in writing. The protest expired without action, and the war itself ended less than 7 weeks after Lansing sent his response. The particular shape of Germany's complaint deserves examination, because the structure of the argument reveals something important, and because the irony embedded in it was not subtle at the time and has not become more subtle since. The German military had introduced large-scale poison gas warfare to the Western Front in 1915 at Hypocrisy. Chlorine gas, released from pressurized cylinders, drifted across Allied trenches, killing through chemical asphyxiation, a death that unfolded over minutes and caused visible, prolonged suffering. Later refinements brought mustard gas, which did not kill quickly but blinded and burned skin and lungs, incapacitating men for weeks. The use of chemical weapons was, even under the standards of 1915, recognized as a crossing of a line that most nations had agreed not to cross. Germany had crossed it deliberately, at scale, and repeated it. That same government then submitted a formal legal protest through the neutral Swiss, arguing that a pump-action shotgun violated international humanitarian law by causing unnecessary suffering. Ansell's memorandum did not require the comparison to be made explicitly. The argument against the shotgun collapsed on its own terms long before anyone raised the gas question. But the gas question was there, and it was not lost on anyone in Washington or in the press or on the Western Front. The Model 1897 was not a uniquely cruel instrument. It was effective at close range in precisely the environment where American soldiers were being sent to fight. That was true of every weapon both sides carried. The lethality of a weapon was not, under the Hague Convention or under any consistent reading of the laws of war, grounds for banning it. If it were, there would have been nothing left on the Western Front to fight with. The Winchester 1897 did not leave American service when the armistice was signed. When the Second World War brought American forces into the Pacific, into the jungles of the Philippines, the islands of the Central Pacific, the close terrain where the range of a rifle was irrelevant, the Army resumed production of the trench gun configuration. By March of 1943, nearly 25,000 new Model 1897s had been delivered to military inventory. The gun that Germany had tried to outlaw in 1918 was still being crated and shipped to American soldiers a quarter century later. Over its full production run, from 1897 to 1957, Winchester manufactured more than 1,200,000 Model 1897s. John Browning had designed it for the civilian market, a hunting gun, a sport shooter's tool. The Army had taken it, stripped it down, added a heat shield and a bayonet lug, and handed it to the men who were going to win the war. Germany had tried to make carrying it a capital offense. The United States had answered that threat in writing, with a deadline, and had not altered its behavior by a single round. The German protest of 1918 is sometimes treated as a historical footnote, almost a curiosity, a great power formally objecting to a shotgun while fielding poison gas and flamethrowers. But the record underneath it is more significant than the irony. An enemy power threatened in writing to execute American soldiers over a weapon. The United States government produced a complete legal refutation in 7 days, rejected the protest in its entirety, and put Germany on formal notice of the reprisals that would follow any harm done to American troops on these grounds. Germany never followed through. The gun kept moving. And the Winchester 1897 outlasted the empire that tried to make it illegal, still in production, still in service, long after the government that issued that threat had ceased to exist.